Inclusive, a Microsoft Design Toolkit. Rosemarie Garland Thompson, Professor, Emory University. I am an educator, scholar, and a woman with a disability.
So in school, I could read, and that's a great advantage. I could get into the classroom, I could sit in my seat and stay there. I could pay attention, I could speak, I could hear. So I could participate pretty fully. Where I was excluded were places like, let's say, music. Everybody would learn to play the flutophone, and that's how you got your introduction to music. And a flutophone, of course, is a very manually intensive instrument. I mean, obviously I couldn't play the flutophone. I don't remember how this occurred, but when music came, I would sit quietly in my desk and draw. And I remember a sense of exclusion, a sense of shame. But what it taught me was a way to be sturdy and dignified in the face of exclusion. The other thing is, growing up, of course, I didn't know anybody else who was disabled or had a disability and had absolutely no consciousness about any kind of social justice or identity politics or anything around gender, around class, around anything. And when I discovered that there was a disability rights movement, I was just astonished.
Her hands are asymmetrical.
I've been able to move into a community of people with disabilities that I feel like I have something in common with.
She applies lipstick and fluffs her hair.
When you're in that environment and you don't have that body and you don't have that way of being, you're perpetually having to adjust your behavior or work with the environment in new and resourceful ways.
She uses her cell phone.
The digital world demands a much more robust pace and engagement, manual engagement with technology.
Text appears on the phone as she speaks.
Pace is one of the greatest limitations.
She pours cream.
I feel slow all the time. To feel slow all the time is to feel behind all the time. It takes me maybe 30 to 45 seconds longer to go through anything. And when there are all sorts of people behind me pushing through quickly, and I'm doing things with one hand, it literally slows me down.
She packs a suitcase.
We have a different relationship to space and a different relationship to time from the normative expectations of how you arrange yourself in space and how you arrange yourself in time.
She wheels her luggage into an airport terminal.
When I'm in an accessible space without other disabled people using the space, I feel alone.
She enters through a revolving door.
For me, the best environment that I'm ever in is Washington, D.C. So when you go to Washington, D.C., it's very moving because you're in an accessible public environment, transportation, public spaces, and it's used by a wide range of people with disabilities and other people that use accessible environments.
Passengers wait for the metro in D.C.
So one of the things that I think is most important about a disability perspective is to make life work, to make things fit between body and world. You change the environment, not the body. You change the environment, not the person. And that structure is one that says you are a person equal in dignity and value and worth to every other person. I went to Washington, D.C. this summer for a week to be a part of and to participate in the celebrations and the events around the 25th anniversary of the passage of the Americans with Disabilities Act.
President Bush.
With today's signing of the landmark Americans for Disabilities Act, every man, woman, and child with a disability can now pass through once closed doors into a bright new era of equality, independence, and freedom.
I was in a constant community with more people with disabilities who had some status in the world than I had ever been with before. And it was so
Rosemarie fights back tears.
moving.
At the ceremony, spectators applaud. In the front row, a half-dozen men and women sit in wheelchairs.
And that is what makes me feel most as if this is really an integrated and diverse world.
Titles. This is part of a film series created to build empathy and inspire designers. Inclusive, a Microsoft Design Toolkit. A Slanted Light production. Microsoft.